What's going on, Workforce? Brian and Chris here, and today we're talking about the caster changes that we want to see and what we're excited about with the live letter this Friday. You can tune in over on Twitch and on YouTube if you want to hang out with us during the live letter, but don't worry, if you can't stay up that late, we'll be having the summary and the information broken down for you here as well. So be sure to be subscribed, hit that like button, share, and clip any parts of our videos that you find the most interesting. We usually save the best for last, so thank you guys who enjoy and watch our videos. So Chris, we just finished talking about healers. Now we're talking about casters. Next, we're going to be talking about ranged. And finally, we're going to wrap it up with melee changes. It is a great week to be a Final Fantasy fan. So I want to know what your thoughts are. Like, obviously, like from a casting perspective, give everybody the rundown. Where are you in terms of your leveling? What casters do you have any out that have yet to be capped? And then let's dive into what we want to see on Friday.
So I was a Black Mage main through mid Stormblood. So that's, of course, done. That's at 80. I have a retainer that's a Black Mage, so it has to get done.
Yeah.
And then I got Red Mage's cap, really enjoyed it the whole way up. And my Summoner's coming up with Scholar. It's along for the ride because the healer queues are phenomenal. And so I don't really know Summoner that well. Thankfully, I've got a main Summoner in the room with me. And then Blue Mage, I've done all the way through the first kind of all the stages of the Masked Carnival. But it's not a real caster, but it is, and it's an extra gear set that I have to keep around. Thankfully, that gear set would be useful if they ever added, like having that set. It kind of made me wish that I had a limited job in the healer or melee role so that I had that extra gear set around and it was useful as opposed to like pre-staging it. And so that's where I'm at. I like ranged casting if I don't have a queue. I came from being in WoW, being a healer and ranged caster. That was my background. So
now we're sitting here on the edge going to level 90. We'll put Blue Mage maybe into its own category for now, because as much as I want to talk and explore the concept of limited jobs, the future of that system with you, that's going to be another video for another day. But let's focusing on casters. We got Red Mage, Black Mage, and we have Summoner. I think out of those three, if I was going to put money down in Vegas on any of them being awesome at the start of the expansion and at the end of the expansion, that would be Black Mage. Black Mage clearly is the caster supreme, especially as it is Yoshi P's main. I don't know where they go from here. I'm gonna say with the one thing I want to see for Black Mages and my fellow Final Fantasy XI players and 1.0 players. I hope you support me on this. Go to let's rage on the forums. Can we get Burst back, please? Burst is an ancient magic lightning thunder ability, and when we look at the ancient magic, we got Flare, we got Freeze, and we never got the ancient magic for lightning, thunder in this case, and that would be Burst. And I've always expected it every single expansion, and then they went with this like Despair and all this other like great magic that is awesome from a damage dealing perspective. But I would love to see some thunder ancient magic make its way into the Black Mage rotation. Anyway, that's just the one thing I want to see for Black Mage. Chris, what do you want to see?
The casters are something that make me really realize like how I want gearing to change. Specifically the Materia system. Yeah. The Materia system feels really odd that like you would want to push your personality. And if you want to push your personality into something, not talking top gear and progression, optimize stats. But if you think about the personality as a Black Mage, your focus is like, how do I stay in my ley lines? How do I get my cast off? How do I slide cast? It is the job that I think of the three has a massive, massive gap between a good one and a bad one. People see that it's this top damage job and they're like, oh man, I'm going to go be Black Mage and do top damage. Okay, I believe you're going to do one of those things on the first day, but I have a feeling you have a learning curve between you and that second step. Sphia makes it look easy, but there is a little more complexity there. Yeah, and that's why I was excited to see Rin progging on it the other night and kind of mastering that in front of us and seeing an excellent player adapt and see them progress on the job. I think that I would love to see gearing be something that allows me to emphasize that. And so I want to put speed on a Black Mage. That's what feels good. Regardless of what balance tells me, that's what feels good, is putting speed. The moment I move to Red Mage, I don't care about speed because every other cast is instant. Yeah. And so gearing on my casters always feels goofy. And so I think it's one of the roles where I immediately look at the gearing system and realize, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what's the plan? So I know you're asking me like, what do I want to see for the jobs? What I want to see from the jobs is the ability to kind of show their personality. And I would expect that from the gearing to do it. But since the gearing can't, I don't know how that makes its way into the job rotations any more than it already has.
Okay. That's fascinating. So there's no, like, I guess, identity that you'd want to see overall with like certain skills or certain changes to how the jobs play themselves?
I love the way Black Mage feels. I like it. Yeah. I think it feels great. I think it feels like, I love that the gauge helps me see when I'm doing it right versus wrong. I like seeing the things go boom, stat squish incoming, heads up. I think Black Mage feels really fun. The casts feel epic. The animations feel awesome. I have the ability, the advanced techniques, the ability to kind of teleport back to my ley lines and things like that are amazing.
Yeah.
The mana management side of Black Mage, I adore. Summoner, I don't really know what's going on with Summoner, but it seems poised for the biggest change. And so Summoner's been one that I've invested the least into like being attached to, because like I don't want to attach to any, I don't want to imprint on whatever the best part of Summoner is. And you're like, oh my God, right? And then it's like, hey, so I know you picked like one thing out to the Summoner that you really liked. So that's gone. So I've tried really hard to like, I just want it leveled. I just want to be ready. But I don't really want to get that attached to Summoner. So it's one that like I don't really have anything there as far as identity that I'm personally attached to. I think summons should be more epic, and I think summons in general, like what I said in the healer video, should be something that you bring down. These kind of, I think Summoner is more poised than any other job to have a solo limit break. Just a straight up thing that I'm building up, and I bring in a big summon like a heaven on high Magicite, and it does the thing. And that's just part of my rotation. I'm building towards these summons. The summons come out, they do their thing, and then they're over. And so it does feel kind of like that warrior inner release, where you press the ability and then like the boss changes phases, right? As like Bahamut comes in and you're like, I wasted my Bahamut.
Right.
Like, well, why didn't you hold it? And so like, I would like to see something like that for Summoner. So it's the one whose identity I think is the weakest, but it also seems poised for a big change. So I'm really just like, I don't feel like I have to cry out for a big change, because it feels like everything Yoshi P said has hinted that we are getting a big change. It's hinted. We don't know for sure. So I think I'd be the most disappointed if Summoner is not the one. If I got to pick one to be focused on this Friday, it would be Summoner. And they go, yeah, Black Mage and Red Mage will be good too, but Summoner. And then I think Red Mage is in a neat spot. I would love to see, now that we have Dancer, right? That's the addition with Shadowbringers. There is 2 reigns that have this kind of in and out portion. And I would like to see more play between the way Red Mage and Dancer plays. I think those are both really fun. I think they're really complementary in that way. And so I don't know what that looks like, but they both bring immense utility to the party. They both have this in and out. And so I don't know what Red Mage does. Maybe it has more on the in rotation. Maybe it has, I don't know what that looks like. But the fact that it already has an instant res, like it will always be in prog parties.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's where it's like when I look at the identity for Red Mage, like honestly, it'd be interesting to see more additional procs. I do want to spend some time with Summoner. I honestly think Red Mage and Black Mage are the most well-defined jobs, and they feel like themselves, right? A Red Mage doesn't feel like a Black Mage, and a Black Mage doesn't feel like a Red Mage. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. I see a lot of people saying like, oh, I wish Black Mage had utility. Absolutely not. Like, its utility is its damage. Like it's boom. I'm here to boom things. And that you bring me for clear, like we're ready to farm and clear. That's why I'm here.
I could see sleep having more use.
Well, yes, I would love to see crowd control, mechanics
just
in generally brought into like that level. It's like sleep is like, oh, you're same thing with White Mage. It's like I'm solo, and that's my
not adding anything.
That's my story single player ability, and then it's never ever used outside of that. Like maybe like when we get into our have like our deep dungeon conversation later this week. That's essentially where maybe we can talk about like more utility coming in forms of that. I definitely agree. Summoner, I have so much want to see that change. Like when we talk about what is a summoner, right? We've got these Eggies, and then all of a sudden you got Phoenix and Bahamut, right? That was an interesting transition, but like what does that go next? Like, oh, now I have a third like really awesome summon, and I got 3 great summons, and I got 3 like like they're just there. They're your pet. They're just always out. And the fact that the pet isn't even a pet, like you can't tank with Titan anymore. Like when the summoner had that, at least I felt it had some identity. Like that's one of the coolest things I thought that it brought to the party. Oh, tank's down, Titan's got us covered while we get him back up. Like that's how it used to be. Shadowbringers took that away, and so I think a lot of its identity got lost because now it's just this form of automatic damage that's going out, and okay, it looks like Ifrit, it looks like Titan, looks like Garuda. And yes, there are some pros and cons to each, where in the case of Scholar, it's the fairy is the fairy, and the summoner had at least some level of identity there. I want to see big Ifrit. I want to see all of that. I think you're 100% right. Like it would be such a unique system that as the summoner plays and as it does its rotation properly, like as you build up that, you want to do certain things that help funnel your, it's the personal limit break I know is going to confuse people because they're like, you want personal limit breaks? Well, what does that do to the party? No. It's their mechanic. It's just the summoner. And as they do this, as it builds up, then they can sit here and say, yes, I'm going to call forth whomever. And then all of a sudden that is such a big, awesome moment in the fights. And the goal is that, from just a strategy would be to what do you do to help build up that meter so that you can bring about that really cool moment in the fight as often as possible. And yes, and then each of the summons maybe could have their own personal identity, right? Like, okay, if we bring in Ifrit, it's going to be this kind of style of, damage, and you want to do that for this situation. But if nothing else, I would love it to say okay, you can choose as a summoner what visual you want to have represented as a part of that moment. Do you want it to be Ramuh? Do you want it to be whomever? Whether they have a certain design or not, it is a big moment for the summoner that pays off for perhaps some more disciplined, more situational gameplay. And I would love to see them more focused in on dots, like dots on dots on dots on dots, where it's like the summoners, yes, you've got, they're more focused they're better in longer fights, obviously. So boss fights are really great for the summoner, but they do have some spike damage, but I felt like they were all over the place in terms of what was their burst damage versus their, they've got their dot, and it just felt.
But there's some playfulness there. Right? The moment you add a limit break bar, you can say, okay, then I pop my limit break bar at level 1 because limit break also consumes my dots. And so there's some playfulness, yes. But in general, that's why the first thing I noted was gearing, because I actually like where Black Mage and Red Mage are as an identity, and more is better. So they're going to give us something new. Yeah. And so I'm not really that concerned about them. But Summoner's already poised for a change. So I'm not concerned about casters in general.
Right.
I do think Summoner is also uniquely poised if we're just now shooting for the moon, because we're going to the moon. Mm-hmm. I think Summoner is also poised to be the job that if they're not going to give us another limited job,
right?
Since it is in the caster category, and Summoner is the one I would do it for. I think Summoner should be the first job to get a limited set of features. It should have its own masked carnival that just never ages, just does its own thing, and that lets you unlock different summon cosmetics. And so instead of summoning Ramuh, you can summon a different boss. You can summon Ixion, and it's your level 3 lightning. It does the same thing, but we're going to summon a different lightning. And so I think there's, there could be a cool system there where you can lock cosmetics behind it. You can lock individual challenges behind it. Maybe you have open world lost actions or something like that tied behind it. Unique gear sets, something. I don't know what that is, but it's the job that if we're not going to do a limited job system if we're not going to expand on the limited job system did make me hungry for that optional side content that is PvE based and doesn't have to operate inside the rules.
Yeah.
And so giving me a Mage Tower-esque Hall of the Novice unique summoner edition, where I can go do a set of challenges as a summoner, and I can progress through those, and they are only solvable by a summoner as a summoner, and then all that's locked behind them is summoner only cosmetics. That's something that I would like to see. So if I was going to just overhaul any one job and make it the flagship of change for Endwalker, summoner is top on my list.
Yeah. I actually agree, and when you say that, I go, well, let's just expand that to all the jobs. Wherever, of course.
One per expansion.
I'm easily,
starting with Summoner.
It's like let me just theoretically spend Square Enix's money here, but where it would be interesting to see the evolution, and this will be probably a part of our limited videos that just kind of as a preview, where every job has its curated, which is what it exists today as, and then a limited version in which that you can have that kind of thing. You have a lot more customization over how the job plays. And yes, it's just going to pull you out of certain things because it just fundamentally breaks the systems, right? Like, okay, you clearly, you know, are one-shotting this raid boss. Like, let's tone that down, because then that's going to just, that would be something impossible to control. And that's where I think when we look at the content and how the content's designed, I would either love to see pets come back in terms of something that can be hit, something that, you know, like Titan could still be a tank. I think that would be really exciting to see. But if we're not going to go in that direction, let's just move on and let's evolve the summoner into something that can truly feel unique and something that I think lives up to the historic word summoner within the Final Fantasy series. And that is big, brash, boom, you know, in that regard. So yeah, it's going to be great to see. That's what I'm most excited for out of all the changes. Like, yes, I'm looking forward to Reaper. Yes, I'm looking forward to Sage, but what are they doing to Summoner? And the question is that, does it bring me back to where that's the job that I want to play?
Yep.
I don't know. Chris, why don't you take us out?
I mean, that's ultimately the caster category is the one that I'm most happy with, but definitely sound off in the comments below if maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about, because Brian and I don't do Savage on casters. And so, you know, maybe we're wrong. Let us know. Politely, I hope. But either way, we'll find out on Friday what the big changes are, or at least the start of those, as we get ever closer to Endwalker, where we will see each and every one of you. Thank you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.